Hey, what's up, Libra? Welcome back to this Timeless General Tarot reading. Make sure to skip to the conclusion if you would like to get the gist of the message without waiting for me to get all of the cards to drop for you. Per usual, all typical disclaimers are assumed, all non-typical disclaimers are asserted. Make sure that you take all of this with a grain of salt. This is a general reading, therefore you need to make sure that you be careful applying any messages that are not meant for you. With that being said, I'm going to shuffle the cards here until you get some kind of drop, so until that point, make sure to sit tight or use the timestamp below to skip to the card dropping for you. And I apologize that that's my personal style. I feel like tarot readers fall into drawing cards off the top as a form of haste in order to keep the attention of their viewer, which for me personally, I know it works for certain YouTube tarot readers. Some of them do excellent at doing that, but for me personally, I feel like it is not as authentic. Even though some tarot readers do it very well, for me personally, what I really like about tarot is that without my will being involved, cards will drop, and that's divinity assisting through me to drop the cards, is how I see it. I'm not going to take those because there's 3 of them there. So there's 2 cards. Let me see what this first card is for you. So starting this off, you've got King of Wands. Nice. In the upright. Lord of the Fiery Throne. Fire energy can represent an older male, mature male. Can represent Aries, Sagittarius, or Leo. While it can represent an individual, it can also represent the energy embodied by a king. Okay, so I've got the 6 of Swords in reverse trying to come out twice for you. Alright, great goddess. Let's get some more clarification here for this poor Libra who's at 4 minutes in a reading and nothing is really coming out yet. Like I said, it makes sense why other readers haste to draw cards off the top and read whatever. Can't blame them if they're trying to get those subs and those view hours for monetization. I really am trying to stay true to myself, though, that this is for helping other people. Even though it'd be nice to make a buck off it, it's got to be real. I'm not doing this for... I'm not doing this to be fake. A couple cards wanting to poke out here and there, but the clear message is what you really want to see. Alright, guys. What can you give to this Libra? What does this Libra need to hear? What can you give me to clarify this King of Wands? So here's the clarification. 10 of Wands reversed. not dealing with the pressure of your success or this King of Wands, not dealing well with the pressure of their success, the natural workload that develops once you become successful. To a certain extent, it can signify not delegating well. Some kind of sign of being overburdened. And the Star in reverse. So this, whomever this King of Wands is finding themselves losing hope over what they thought was going to be their success, what they thought was going to be their happiness, their pride and joy. They are in fact losing a lot of hope over the utter reality of managing all of that, which is disappointing because this King of Wands is in an optimistic energy. So the idea that they are struggling under the pressure of their own success seems to be taking their hope away, and that's very disappointing. So very quickly, give me a split second here to review something about this Ten of Wands in the reverse, because due to the upright energy of this King of Wands, the simplest explanation here is that you are not delegating properly. I mean, that's the gist of it. And it looks like it's getting old. The key here is delegation. The key for you or for whomever this King of Wands is, if it's not you, if it is somebody else, maybe it's your boss, it may be a fire sign that you respect, an older person that you respect. They can be very loving and kind and generous and loyal, but it looks like they're struggling under the weight of their own success. And the main signifier here is that is a failure to delegate properly, and that could actually be burning them out to a certain extent. It could be causing them to like lose their hope and outlook. They're under the impression that life was supposed to get easier after all of this effort, and they're finding it becoming more burdensome. They're finding life oppressing them even further, and that is definitely not what that was probably never their goal, especially if they're in an optimistic energy. Like a healthy King of Wands, an optimistic, positive King of Wands should be attracting good tidings. So finding them feeling like this is definitely disappointing, and it isn't what I would want them to be saddled with from the universe. All right, let's see, Great Goddess. What else can you give me for clarify? Okay, so dang, now we even have the Ten of Swords in reverse. This lack of hope and this lack of ability to delegate there's a chance that it could wind up hurting this King of Wands. They could work themselves so hard, they could get themselves in a rush, some kind of a rush, and that could cause them to actually like have an accident trying to overwork themselves. Taking a quick look here at the exact words. It's just a ruinous signal. Like, I'm going to see if I can get some extra clarification for what exactly that is, but it's very disappointing. This King of Wands is like... Yes, I'm not sure what this Queen of Swords would be representing here. Libra, are you an air sign? You might be, this might be you in this instance. This is something that's interesting with Libra readings, is every once in a while balance comes out, and that's what we've got here. We've got 2 lords on the edge, 2 reverse 10s in the star in the center, so we found a balance in the Libra reading, which is always cute. It's not the first time it's happened. You might actually be the balance this King of Wands requires. You might be someone who can speak reason to them. Although for whatever, there's also a sign here that you two might actually not be seeing eye to eye here. You might be looking different ways, so to speak. Maybe this warning is to the King of Wands that they're risking losing the Queen of Swords. But the Queen of Swords is somebody who could get through to this King of Wands. They are somebody who could speak sense to them and get them to consider delegation. And being a Queen of Swords in the upright in their own right, they could be somebody this King of Swords or this King of Wands could trust with delegating properly. And it's somebody that could... I just feel like it's somebody that could really help out this King of Wands. So I'm trying to double check here that you are, let me see, water signs are Cancer, Pisces, and Scorpio, which means you are an air sign. But then this is air as well, so I don't know who this King of Wands is. But now that we've got Queen of Swords coming out in the reading, there's a likeliness that this is you if you're an older woman. Not necessarily an old lady, but a mature gal who has a sense about her. Let me double check though, the Queen of Swords once again. Just to double check here some of her characteristics in the upright, so I can maybe get a little bit more clarity as to what the heck the ruin could be in this particular instance. So this is very simply, it's suggesting that you in fact are like the exactly who could help this King of Wands balance out their issues. I don't know if you're already in their life or not. The King of Wands is at risk of losing you. Is part of what this Ten of Swords in reverse is suggesting. Maybe the burden of the work, it could cause them to lose their family member. Maybe you're their family member, but you can't take how they don't have any time for you in their personal life because they're so overburdened by this success they've found, and probably very likely in business, in their career. It's not even necessarily pointing to the King of Wands having a lot of material success, but a lot of authoritative success. It's just that they're not handling they're not handling the results of their success well. They've found themselves with more work, not less work, despite their success, which is disappointing, and it's pointing to the idea that delegation is the issue. And due to the balance here, it's almost like maybe you both are losing hope. But I know this King of Wands is going to need to rely on other people. And they've got that capacity. They have the optimistic capacity that people would want to help them. they just, for some reason, they're finding themselves in anxiety to trust others enough to do these things. Maybe they don't have faith that they are capable enough to do them, but the sign is very clear here that it's ruining this King of Wands outlook, and it has the potential of devastating them, devastating something, whether it be a business partner or part of their family, or even just their own health from pushing themselves too hard. And more or less the message here is that this Queen of Swords, they have the sort of diplomatic capacity to not just convince the King of Wands to do something like this, but they have the ability to actually assist the King of Wands in selecting who would be effective delegation for helping the King of Wands out. So if this is you, if this Queen of Swords is you, this is suggesting that you could be what is there to help the King of Wands. And I think I've said that a few times now, but that's essentially that's essentially the gist of this message. Like, I don't even know if there's anything else that needs to be clarified. I'm thinking about ending it because we've even completed the Libra balance, and this is almost a sign that you are the balance for this King of Wands. And that you could actually help them in multiple facets, basically. So yeah, it's very interesting. I don't even know if there's anything else to clarify here. Let's see here. Alrighty. Goddess, are there any clarifiers for the King of Wands? Okay, so we had this come out. So we have the King of Wands. And this just goes to clarify the ruin. This goes to clarify all the negative energy. The King of Wands is cruising for a bruising here. They are not acknowledging how they could really screw things up. They aren't exactly acknowledging, and it sort of is clarifying what I was suggesting, that they are, the word it uses here is paranoia, but what I was suggesting is that they're afraid of trusting other people with their success, so to speak. So I don't know if this is career. It's the symbolism is suggesting that it's more career oriented than materially, financially oriented. The king could also have indecision about who to delegate to, which is another clarifier as to this Queen of Swords being a piece of the puzzle. So that's just confirmation as to where I was going with this. The King of Wands is having trouble with delegation as a leader. And it's very disappointing because they're an upright King of Wands, so they have people probably want to help them. They just can't figure out how to trust others to do things. And I've been there myself in certain situations where I've needed to delegate to others, and I know in those situations the problem with me is, like, I feel like I want to have the whole system perfect first. That way, or it's like there's times where I feel like if I don't have the whole system set up, people won't want to help me or something like that. So there's a certain element of faith mixed into this mix where this King of Wands needs to take some faith. And it might be really tough for them to do that on their own, but with this Queen of Swords showing up, that would be who could help this King of Wands out. So that the Five of Swords reversed speaks to that as well. So I'm going to continue this clarification. But the message is basically driving home here, so let's see. Great Goddess, what can you clarify for the Ten of Wands reversed? Is there any clarifications that you can offer for this particular card? I am looking to clarify. Okay, so we have two cards poke out. That's not what I'm looking for. Although one of the cards there was the Three of Pentacles, which is a sign of that card was basically a sign of delegating, successfully delegating, coming together with others to achieve things. So like that was trying to, once again, okay, so now we have the moon coming out, flipping right out for you, which the moon is a symbol of illusion. So it's just clarifying the fact that the King of Wands is very likely lying to themselves about how they are overburdened in this situation. They are not understanding why they're overburdened in the situation. They aren't intuitivizing, if that's a close enough word, to the situation. They aren't intuiting properly how to deal with this, how to handle this burden, which is kind of a sign of a lot of mental energy, perhaps. They aren't, maybe they're leading too much with their actions, which is very typical King of Wands, and it's what's required to get to this Ten of Wands. But there's a call to take a different approach to a certain extent. That's more or less what this is suggesting here. And also the moon kind of speaks to the Five of Swords reversed as well, because of the clarification on a sort of paranoia, a sort of lack of faith, which is very likely the King of Wands' intuition is trying to get through that that's not the case, that you can trust these people around you. You, as an upright King of Wands, have the energy to gravitate individuals that are worthy and want to help you. So once again, it's more clarification. It actually is more relevant clarification to this. So I'm going to move on to the star card here. And I've never done a clarifying message like this, but I'm very curious if we can get some double balance here from Libra. And I'm curious how much, what else could be suggested, but the suggestion is pretty clear, so let me see what we've got here. Alright, Grey Goddess, if you would please, can you provide some clarity on the star card? So I have a couple cards that kind of want to poke out here. Okay, so once again, we've got the strength card here. This is a call to inner strength. And if the King of Wands has fallen into the star reversed, then they have lost their inner strength to a certain extent, because they have lost their outlook and they have lost their hope, their belief in being able to deal with this and cope with it. And to the same point, the moon card is flanking the strength card, so we're looking at another call to inner strength, which requires accessing this King of Wands intuition, which is something the Queen of Swords also could offer. So pretty straightforward. The strength card is suggesting to find that inner strength again, the inner strength to have faith in where this is going, the inner strength to get over the illusions that are causing this King of Wands to not have the proper faith necessary to delegate in these situations. So that's a pretty solid clarifier for that. So, alright, now the toughie here, the Ten of Swords reversed, which is pretty straightforward. It's a card of, it's the Lord of Ruin. That is what that card means, and it's even more ruinous in the reverse. It's more severe in the reverse, which really leads to like this King of Wands pushing themselves too hard in the work situation and something bad happening as a result. So if they're like working on a farm and they're just pushing themselves too hard and they get exhausted, there's, you know, like some kind of risk of like running themselves over with their tractor or something like that, like, you know, something like that. It's just that's kind of what the sign of the Ten of Swords reversed is signifying. So, Grey Goddess, what kind of clarity do you have for the Ten of Swords reversed? Card of imbalance is popping out there. Lack of balance, which is what, once again, this is reading is suggesting that the King of Wands isn't balancing, even though they're not managing to balance their delegation properly. So here we have something for the Ten of Swords, and we've got the... I'm not exactly sure where this is going. I'm actually going to return that. I'm not quite sure how that could clarify. I'm not sure why that's clarifying the Ten of Swords. The Four of Cups would signify there is a... To a certain extent, it almost signifies complacency. Like the King of Wands is... Because they're just not feeling like they used to about the whole situation, they're just not doing the right things, is almost what that's suggesting. But it doesn't feel like what could clarify this Ten of Swords reverse, so I want to keep looking. Alright, Goddess, can you give me a clear answer, please, for the Ten of Swords in reverse? A clear clarifier for something relevant for how this Ten of Swords in reverse could be affecting this King of Wands. Or perhaps this Queen of Wands, if it has to affect her as well. Alright, Great Goddess, are you hesitant to clarify what this could possibly be? That's not a great sign, because it's not typical to... It's not known as very ethical for a tarot reader to... Whoa. Okay, so we have both of these going on. I'm not sure which one. This one was over here. So I'm gonna go like this then. So this is a little interesting because we have two cards of blocked intuition. And we have two cards of 2 5s. So, very cute here how we have a double balanced row for Libra. Internal capacities, blocked intuitions, 2 5s reversed, one of which has to do with... They both kind of have to do with defeat, being defeated, failures to a certain extent, not succeeding. Let me double check the 5 of Pentacles though really quick, because I used to think in the reverse. Okay, so material, it is just a sign of material trouble. Dang. It can be a sign of unemployment long continued, which would happen if this is a physical injury that ruins this King of Wands' ability to be employed. That is actually partly what this is suggesting, which could lead to hardship and financial distress. So this isn't even... Okay, so I'm going to probably end up concluding this reading now that we have this double clarification here. Pretty cool. This is a double... You've got double balance on this. That is just something that is so cool about the tarot, and that's what happens when you can listen to divinity. And if you let divinity give you the cards in this fashion, is you find this type of balance in Libra readings sometimes. So I'm going to mark this as conclusion, but I don't think I need to meditate too much on what this is suggesting. Alright, so to conclude, I have to be very careful here because this is... From an ethical standpoint, it is not recommended to blast out travesty like this in a reading. But part of what the signs are pointing to here is that this King of Wands is going to overwork themselves to a point where they have some kind of an accident. And that accident is going to lead them to unemployment and financial hardship, prolonged unemployment. The reason that this is being suggested, or the reasons for why this is happening, the suggestion for why this is happening is that this King of Wands, even though they've found great success they are starting to become overburdened by the fact that they are not delegating properly. And that lack of delegation is overburdening them because their success has yielded them more and more demand upon them. And that's forcing them to do more and more. And they're failing to delegate. And what's coming out here is that they're failing to delegate because they have some blocked intuition, whether in the form of paranoia or in the form of a lack of faith. They aren't figuring out how to trust other people with doing the work that is required to help the King of Wands maintain their success. And part of that is classifiable as paranoia. Part of it is classifiable as fear. Part of it is simply not understanding how to do that delegation. So perhaps they think they have to have everything done exactly a certain way, and that's the only way that it could work, which might not be true. Perhaps they believe that in my own personal experience, there's times where I need to provide individuals with things to accomplish, but I'm afraid that asking them to do anything will actually push them away from me. Or I'm afraid that asking them to do things my way will just cause them to argue with me and not want to do it. Or they will just want to do it a different way. Or they'll want to cut corners and do things in lazy fashion, which isn't how this success is reached all the time. A lot of times the success is reached through certain types of diligence. In that instance, if that could really break this King of Wands' hope, because if they have to keep struggling against dealing with these individuals not wanting to do things in the right way, that can really break down their hope. But there's a warning here that this King of Wands is going to have to figure out how to get help for their own sake, because they're running risk of some kind of ruin. And with this Five of Pentacles here clarifying, and it actually technically both of these cards came out as clarifiers for this card, whatever this ruin is going to set back this King of Wands, very likely in the form of a physical injury. And I'm not supposed to, as a tarot reader, suggest such a thing. I'm not supposed to do that. But I'm telling you here, in this reading, that is being suggested to a solid amount, and it's giving good reasons why that is, because this King of Wands isn't figuring out how to delegate. And they're being called to find the strength within them to have that faith. And it's something that has to do with their intuition. And they've got to trust their heart differently in this situation. And they might have to sacrifice certain things they're used to find that. But the message here is also that this King of Wands could, in fact, in the upright, there's a good shot that people want to help them. There's a good shot that people actually are gravitated towards assisting them. So it's like they've got the pool and the talent there to do the work. But the King of Wands has got to find a different way to break through these intuitional barriers and break out of these paranoias that are blocking their ability to delegate properly, which at the end of the day is actually breaking their hope, because they aren't, and it's breaking their outlook because they can't figure out how to do this. And that is where, very likely, the Libra, whomever is watching this, whomever this is for, comes in to save the day, because there's a message here that the Libra, whomever this Queen of Swords is, they actually have the proper energy, they have the proper capacity. It's like they're a puzzle piece that fits perfectly for this King of Wands. Whomever this Queen of Swords is, their capacity is to kind of diplomatically balance things and to be able to, I don't want to use the word manipulate, but a more positive form of that word, like balance out all of the parties involved. This Queen of Swords has great potential to actually get through to this King of Wands and speak on their level as to how to delegate these tasks. And they have the potential to actually assist this King of Wands by providing a strength that the King of Wands is lacking. So I don't know if maybe this is a business partner thing. The only thing that's really scary here is that this King and Queen of Wands, or this King of Wands and this Queen of Swords, are looking in different directions. So there's a potential that they don't see eye to eye on this. So maybe you, in general, are like the assistant to this King of Wands or something as the Libra, and you are never able to get through to them, and you two don't see eye to eye. But maybe that's what this reading is for helping you bust through that, because this King of Wands is cruising for a bruising. And it's not that they deserve it, but it's that they're earning it, kind of, which is disappointing. So if you are the Libra that represents this Queen of Swords, and you are dealing with this fiery King of Wands, and this all matches that they're having trouble delegating, and that you can tell that they're like overworking themselves to the point where they're at the risk of hurting themselves, and it's due to this delegation issue, there is a capacity in you that could really, really help out this King of Wands. Whatever you've got to do, whether it's getting everybody on board with following the King of Wands' plan so that the King of Wands can trust that the delegation will succeed in the way that the King of Wands can be sure will work because it's been tried and true in their effort. Maybe it's doing a little bit of that, but then doing a little bit of getting through to the King of Wands that there might even be a better way to do things, and that allowing some of these individuals to kind of branch out and apply these things could actually help quite a bit. Whatever it is, and I'm going to double check real quick because it had a very good explanation for what the Queen of Swords qualities were that could help out. It was like, let me see what the word was they used here. It very specifically speaks to being able to balance differences. So maybe there's a lot of people that want to help this King of Wands, but like they have different opinions, and maybe that's part of why the King of Wands is overburdened, because the people they have to delegate to wouldn't be able to get on the same page. And for whatever reason, the King of Wands isn't able to bust through that. The sign here is that you actually have the qualities to help him with that, or to help them with that. So that's basically all I've got here for you. I hope this resonates. I hope this makes sense. Because if these cards are pointing in the direction it looks like, this King of Wands needs your help. They need your help for their well-being. And it might be your time to shine. So I don't know what you've got to do. And once again, as a tarot reader, it's considered unethical to predict physical trauma and physical issues, but this is pointing to that. So you'd have to plug in the pieces for whom this King of Wands is and whom this resonates for, but that's what I'm getting here. So I hope this helps, and this is so crazy because you got these double balances. That's pretty cool. But if my reading can help keep this King of Wands in good health, then it was worth it. So I really appreciate you being here, and good luck. Do what you can do, man.